right, so this question here deals with stop loss, setting up a trailing stop loss. So we just have the initial stop loss placement, which is going to be 5 ticks, and then we're going to set up a custom trailing stop loss there. So, and this is actually a stop loss, not a stop. So a stop would refer to the entry order. So just to be clear with terminology. All right, so let's get BlackBird open here. All right, so since we're just interested in just setting up some trailing stop loss rules, I'm just gonna create a simple market entry order, and then let's start off with, we'll just start off with the 10 tick stop loss, just a fixed 10 tick stop loss. Actually, hold on. This is a 5 tick below the swing low indicator. All right, so actually what that is, this is the swings highs, the swing low. Yeah, the swing low. So, if you take a look at the chart, I have an indicator on here. So that's plotting magenta and blue lines, right? So you can see this indicator is plotting the swing highs and the swing lows, right? So that is the SI swings highs lows indicator, swings highs lows indicator. So that's what we're going to use here. We're going to use the swings highs lows indicator for the initial stop loss, but we want it 5 ticks below that. So it's going to be 5 ticks below one of these, below the magenta line here. All right. So let me redo my stop loss. We'll get rid of that, and let's go pick the, here we go, the swing low high fixed. And there we go. So that'll kind of start us off, using the swings highs lows indicator. All right, so let's go into the swing patterns, and we need to make sure we're using the correct plots here. So the magenta plot and the blue plot that we see, that is actually the whitest plot that I'm using here. So I'm going to set this to the whitest plot. So for a long trade, we're going to use the whitest bottom plot. And we'll set, oh, that won't, that's right. So typically when you set the long side trade up, our menu system is has a kind of predictive algorithm, and so it automatically set the short side to use the whitest plots as well. So nice little time-saving convenience there. All right, so before we go, and then, well, I guess, yeah, before I go ahead and do this, let's set the offset, a 5 tick offset. There you go, 5 tick offset. So here we go. So our initial stop loss. All right, so again, so our initial, basically our initial placement, it's going to be the swing pattern minus 5 ticks. All right, so we got 5 ticks below. So 5 ticks below, that would be a negative number. All right, so if we go back into the menu, all right, that's going to be a negative 5 ticks if you want to be below. And then it's going to be the swing low. So with the, let me get rid of this so I can get back to the chart. So with the indicator that we're using, let me open up the indicator window. So with the swings, highs, lows indicator that we're using the whitest bottoms. and the widest tops. So basically these are the widest bottoms are like the lowest low, and the widest tops are the highest high. So that would be your swing lows and your swing highs. So, I guess this question is a little subjective, so let me turn on the other plots. Who knows? May want to use the other plots. I have the other plots turned on. Right, you can see the dots now, and the dots show us intermediate swing points, whereas the hash line will show us like the lowest low of the swing points. So I guess I'm gonna change my my understanding of what's meant by swing low. I guess I'm going to use the most recent swing low, which is going to be the dotted lines here. All right, so it's going to be the tightest plots here. All right, and let's see. I'm going to adjust some numbers here. See if I can get the widest plots to react a little faster. Yeah, that'll do it. Okay, even the tightest plots react a little faster. So I just took my number of swings and knocked it down to 2. And the swing sensitivity, well, I'm just going to leave it default because that's obviously totally up to the trader to decide, how sensitive, they want these swing points to be detected. So, all right. Yeah, if you guys want to learn more about the swing highs lows indicator, there is a page on this on our documentation. In our documentation, there's a page on these free indicators that have been included with BlackBird and Bloodhound. All right, so I guess let me just kind of show you real quick here where that would be. All right, so if you're on our website here, we'll go to support and we'll go to documentation here. Right, and so it takes you to this kind of branching off page here where it has our two main products, and then we have some sub products down here. So you can see other indicators, and then there's the swings, highs, lows right there. So we can click on that, and that takes us to the swings, highs, lows documentation page. All right, and there you go. And so from there you can learn more about this indicator, and there's a video there that's been done a while back that goes into a lot more detail on the swings, highs, low indicator here. All right, so anyway, what I've done is essentially played around with the swing indicator, the swings, highs, low indicator on the chart, so I can see the kind of the plot results that I like, for detecting the swing, points. And so I'll plug these settings into BlackBird now. So I just need to adjust this to 2, right? So, and right now it doesn't matter if I use the tightest plot or the widest plot. If we look at the chart, we can see the tightest plots and the widest plots are exactly the same. They match exactly. So the dots and the hashes are exact matches now. So it doesn't, right? So the dots are the tightest plots. The hash lines are the widest plots. So it's not going to matter if I'm using the tightest or widest because they're matching exactly now. So, all right, let's close that and let's get back into BlackBird. Get this open. All right, let's get our initial placement again open. All right, so again, after making this adjustment here with the number of swings, setting that to 2, not 4, 2. Setting that to 2, it doesn't matter if I use the widest or tightest plots now. So I'll just leave it all alone. All right, we got our 5 tick offset, so we're good to go. All right, so that is number 1 done. So our initial placement. Okay, so now the next step is to get this trailing loss. So, and I would say actually this is more like 2A. So this last one down here is more like 2A. So, all right, so we want a trailing stop loss, 10 ticks. Actually, no, sorry, that's right. This would be a 3, so let's put that back. All right, so we want trailing stop loss 10 ticks below the 50 period SMA. So let's put the SMA on the chart here as well. Okay, there's our SMA. And we want 10 ticks below the SMA. All right, let's get BlackBird open again. So let's go into the trailing actions now because we're dealing with trailing rules. So we're going to go into the trailing actions tab and we are going to build a custom trailing set of rules here. So let's add a rule just like that, and I'm going to widen this up a little bit. Okay, so this is going to be trail the SMA 50 negative 10 ticks. There we go. And let's see, so yeah, that's all the rules we have. So we're just gonna jump straight into moving the order, right? So there's not going to be any delay. There's no trigger. There's no requirements as to when we start trailing. Here, let me move this out of the way. So there's no requirements when the stop loss starts trailing the 50 SMA. Right, so therefore there's no delay, there's no trigger. We're just gonna straight move the stop loss here. So we're gonna move that stop loss. We're gonna move it to, and not the last price. We don't want to move to the last price, right? That'll get your stop loss filled instantly. But instead, we want to move it to an indicator. All right, so we're gonna move it to an indicator. And we can see the SMA is our default indicator, but we need to change the period. Let's change that to a 50 period. There we go. And we want it 10 ticks below. So let's put in here our negative 10 ticks, like so. All right, that should do it. SMA 50, negative 10 ticks. So now we're going to move that stop loss, move it to the SMA minus 10 ticks. And then the last step is, how often do we repeat this? Well, we don't have any specific information, so I'm just going to use the typical setting, which is just going to be we're going to move that stop loss every bar. So on every new bar, we'll move that stop loss. Adjust the stop loss there. Okay, let's see. And then we have rule number 3. Actually, you know what? Sorry, this is 2A. I was right the first time. That's right, because it's until we reach 1 tick of profit. So. Right, so there's kind of the key thing. So we're going to keep trailing this, or in other words, we're going to keep repeating, moving the stop loss until 1 tick of profit. So we need to go back in the repeat. And so we do actually have a limitation on how often we on how often we are going to move our stop loss to the SMA. Right. So we do, actually, we're going to repeat until. So we're going to repeat until there's one tick in profit. So let's go to the repeat until menu here. And we're going to use, there we go, profit or loss. Right? So he wants one tick of profit. So the rule here says until one tick of profit. One tick of profit there. So by default, we're set to profit. The amount is one tick. And so the unit is ticks, not currency. So let's move it to tick. There we go, so tick. And we can ignore the ATR. We can ignore the ATR setting because we're not using an ATR. So you can see that there is an actual ATR unit there. So if we were using ATR for a unit, then you might want to adjust the ATR period that you're using. But we're not. So we'll just leave it on ticks. So there we go. One tick of profit. Alright, so we're going to repeat until we reach one tick in profit. And we're going to repeat this every bar, like so. Alright, so that is it. So, done. We'll click OK. And let's just place a manual trade here. So let's go long. Alright, so there's our stop loss, sitting 5 ticks below the swing, the detected swing low. So remember we can see that it looks like that's the swing low, but that hasn't been detected yet by the indicator. So that right there is our detected swing low, at least by the indicator. So, okay, let's just move the market up. As the market moves up, our SMA will move up. So once our SMA starts to move up past our stop loss will start trailing that SMA. And it's going to take a while for that to happen, but so I guess, yeah, so let's just crank the market up here. And we'll watch our SMA move up. Now keep in mind, when we're trailing that SMA, it's 10 ticks below the SMA. So that SMA is going to have to get up there quite a bit. So let's see, we're at, our stop loss is at 779. So the SMA has to get up here. So there we go. Our SMA has to get up to 789. So we're just gonna have to let this market move up quite a bit to get our SMA 50 up there. And we just increase the trend. Okay, it looks like another bar or two, and then our stop loss will start trailing up with that SMA. All right, yeah, it looks like we're there. I think on the next bar, our stop loss ought to start moving. And shoot, let's see the stop loss. Stop loss does not look like it's moving. All right, let's just double check our rules here. Alright, the indicator setting looks good. We do have minus 10 ticks. Alright. Everything looks correct initially. Well, that does look like the correct way to do it. But I don't know. I will. I'll have to check with our software engineer on this and see what's going on. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe there was a little glitch. Let's check here. Let's see if there was any errors that might have been going on. And it does not look like, yeah, nothing triggered there. Another thing we can do is pull out the output window. Take a look at the output window. Let's see, disable debug messages, that's on false, that's good, so we should get output messages. Let's see, disable debug messages is not checked. Right. Well, shoot, we're not getting the output. All right, well, normally we should be, BlackBird should be telling us its decision-making process here. So, yeah, so when you have, trailing rules set up like this, BlackBird will print to the output window. It'll print all of its decision-making process here. So, so when you have trailing rules, BlackBird has to evaluate each of the rules, each of the conditions, and BlackBird will print to the output window, it's the decisions that are being made, so that way you can see what's going on. So, but let's see, I don't have it. Yeah, BlackBird's not printing to my output window today. Not sure why. I wonder. Yeah, let me restart Ninja here, just in case. All right. So if you're running a strategy, such as BlackBird or any other strategy, before you shut down, it's always a good idea to use the flatten everything, before you shut down Ninja. So let's flatten everything, right? So turn your strategies off and make sure that there's no open positions left. And clear that. All right. There, we'll just get this restarted. All right, Gary was asking, trigger on is set to none. Is that relevant? No, Gary, not in this case. So the delay and the trigger on are not being used for the rules here. Yeah. So if we look at the trailing stop loss rules, it's just simply going to follow. It's just simply going to follow the SMA right off. There's no conditions or anything. But so the only condition for this trailing stop loss is that, I guess, the stop loss is only going to trail until we reach 1 tick of profit. So, and then the trailing stop loss will no longer trail. So in other words, we just want to trail until 1 tick of profit. So, and all right, so let me get my data feed back up. All right, there's our BlackBird. Turn it back on. All right. Oh, yeah. Shoot, I should have saved that. But let's just rebuild this quickly again here. Okay, so just use a market order. And we're going to go to use the swing point as our initial placement here. So we're using, and we figured out number of swings should be 2. And it does not matter if we use the tightest or widest plots here. So I'll just leave it at that. And we want it 5 ticks below the swing point. There we go. I'll move this over again. All right, so that's rule number 1 right there. 5 ticks below the swing low. So we have that set up, and now let's go in and set up a trailing rule. Okay. Let's see. All right, so we're going to trail the SMA 50 minus 10 ticks. There we go. All right. Yeah, so this you know, when we start trailing, there is no condition that starts the trailing. So the trigger on to answer, kind of to go into more detail with Gary's question here, the trigger on is, think of that as a condition that determines when your trailing rule starts to activate or starts to run, right? So the delay kind of puts a pause before your trailing rule can start taking effect, before your trailing rule can start executing. And the trigger on as well, these trigger on, all these different triggering conditions, those also make the trailing rule wait until your condition occurs. So these trigger ons are basically like another kind of pausing mechanism. So in other words, right, so your trailing rule cannot execute until your trigger on condition has occurred. Right? So in other words, yeah, so these trigger on rules are kind of like another way of saying, you know, wait until this condition happens, and then the trailing rule can execute. So, all right, and let's set up what we're moving the stop loss to, which is our SMA indicator. And I'll just put that 50 back in there. And we want 10 ticks below the SMA 50, like so. All right. And we have a repeat until, and we're going to repeat until we get a certain profit or loss. There you go. So one tick in profit. Okay, that should do it. And let's see. All right, market's pulled back, so let's go long again. There we go. So we're 5 ticks below our swing low. Now let's move the market up. Let's test this again. Let's get the we need to get the SMA 10 ticks above our stop loss. So let's see, 63.73. All right, so we need to get, oh, what happened here? All right, so we need to get our stop loss up to 770. Sorry, we need to get the SMA up to 773. Right here where the arrow is, because this arrow is 10 ticks above our stop loss. And it looks like our SMA Yeah, our SMA is up to 75. Yeah, shoot. Darn, that's not working. Well, guys, yeah, it looks like maybe there might be a problem with the repeat until. Yeah, I have a feeling there's a problem with the repeat until this profit condition here. Yeah. So we'll have to take a look at that and just verify if there is an issue or not. Yeah, but that is how it should be done. So that is how we would set up these trailing rules here. All right, so at least we'll have this in our catalog of BlackBird files, and we'll get this working here as soon as we can. All right, Gary's just asking, why did I restart NinjaTrader? Well, Gary, I just, when things just don't work in Ninja, following the same line of thinking, whereas restarting Windows fixes a lot of software issues, well, restarting NinjaTrader fixes a lot of software issues, right? And so the issue that I was having is this trailing rule here that I built was not executing. It was not executing. Oh, but also, more importantly, when I had the output window on, I wasn't getting any output from BlackBird as well, and I should be getting some output. So, like for example, let me close this bar, and yeah, I should be getting some output here from BlackBird because I do have a trailing rule. All right, so whenever you have a trailing rule set up, you should be getting some output. BlackBird should be sending messages to the output window, telling you the status of each of your trailing rules here. All right, so opening up the output window is a way for you to kind of not necessarily debug your system, but understand the decisions that BlackBird is making on your trailing rules, right? So it's possible that you could build 5 trailing rules here, and things could get really kind of messy, and so you may not necessarily build your trailing rules exactly the way you want your trailing stop loss to behave, right? So BlackBird will print to the output window the decisions that BlackBird's making based on how you have your trailing rules set up. So so in other words, so like when you're watching when you're testing your your trailing stop loss, or maybe even your entry orders, when you're testing stuff, you can see how your stop loss might be behaving on the chart, but you may not know why. Why is your stop loss moving? Why is your stop loss not moving? If you have a bunch of rules here, it gets a little more complicated to understand why your stop loss may or may not be moving. And so if you open up the output window, BlackBird will tell you BlackBird will tell you what trailing rules are executing and which ones are pending or waiting to execute. Right? So it'll help you kind of understand, which trailing rules are in effect and which ones are waiting just by looking at the messages in the output window there. So if you watch some of the older BlackBird workshops, you'll see I have the output window open, and actually in one of the first earlier BlackBird workshops, I do explain the purpose of the output window. All right, so the question we had last week, the part that was in question is the trailing part here. So it was, yeah, so that we want to trail the stop loss 10 ticks below the 50 period SMA. So let's kind of shorten that up, the SMA 50. And then here's the part that needs a revision here. Until there's one tick of profit. Until there's one tick of profit. So initially, what I had done is I was using the profit or loss. And I set this to 1 tick of profit. Initially we thought, the question was, just 1 tick of profit for the trade, right? The trade is making 1 tick of profit. However, that really didn't make sense. It didn't make sense because, remember, our trailing stop loss was, 10 ticks below the SMA 50. So that meant the stop loss would have stopped trailing fairly quickly if we looked at 1 tick of profit. So the word in question was profit. Profit of what? Was it profit, profit that the trade had made? Or are we talking about 1 tick of profit for the stop loss? That's, so I guess it's kind of a good example when you write your questions in, you got to be very specific. Profit of what? Is it 1 tick of profit for the stop loss, right? So this would be basically, another way of saying this would be a break even plus 1 for the stop loss, right? So if you're looking for 1 tick of profit for the stop loss, right? Most people say that as a break even plus 1, or are we talking about profit of the trade itself? And so last week when I was setting this up, I considered this 1 tick of profit to be profit of the trade. And so in my repeat here, right, we were going to repeat this, we were going to trail our stop loss to the SMA 50 minus 10 ticks. We were going to trail that until we got 1 tick in profit, right? So this profit or loss, this is profit or loss of the trade, not of the stop loss order, right? Big difference, major big difference there. So before I get moving here, let me get the SMA on here. All right, so here's an SMA, and let's say we got into a trade right there. The bounce off that SMA 50, for example, just as an example. So we get into the trade right there. Let's stretch this out here so we can see things. All right, so that's our kind of our entry price right there. And we can see that pretty much instantly, the market's going down. So instantly we're in 1 tick. The trade itself is in 1 tick of profit. But if we're talking about the stop loss is going to be placed up here. So, okay, let's make that line red. So our stop loss is up here somewhere. So, again, looking at these rules, if we look at this until there's 1 tick of profit, if we're using profit of the trade, well, we can say basically that, this trailing stop loss rule is just going to stop instantly because, as soon as we get into the trade, we can see that the market moves down and we're instantly in one tick of profit. So I guess it makes more sense that really what was meant was that we want to wait until the stop loss moves down. So the stop loss is going to follow this SMA 50. It's going to follow it 10 ticks behind it. So we can see it's going to take a while. This might be a bad, no, this actually is a good example. Good spot here. So let's stretch this way out. Right, so it takes a while. Remember, our stop loss is supposed to be 10 ticks off of this SMA 50. So we can see it takes a while before our stop loss moves into one tick of profit. All right, so somewhere around in here, is our stop loss gets into basically it moves to a break even plus one tick. So if we're talking one tick of profit for the stop loss, and then we stop the stop loss, right? So we want to trail the stop loss until there's one tick of profit on the stop loss. So that's kind of that's the revision I'm making here. So one tick of profit for the stop loss versus one tick of profit for the trade. All right, so let's get this open again here. So, so last week I had set it up using the profit or loss to get one tick of profit, but that's profit of the trade. That's not the stop loss profit. So to do the stop loss profit, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to mimic the trailing rule again. So if we look at the trailing rule, our trailing stop loss, we're following 10 ticks below or 10 ticks above the SMA 50, depending if we're long or short, right? So that's what I'm going to recreate in our repeat until, right? So we have a repeat until. So we want to repeat until, if you look at number 3, repeat until we get one tick of profit for a stop loss. So what I'm going to do is indicator A, I'm going to set this to our SMA 50, right? So I'm going to use an indicator value. And remember, our stop loss is following the SMA 50. And then it's 10 ticks below the SMA 50. Or for a short trade, it's going to be 10 ticks above. It's going to be a positive 10 ticks for a short trade. All right, so we can see on my chart up here, right, I have my stop loss line 10 ticks above our SMA 50, right? So that's a positive 10 ticks above for a short trade, or below 10 ticks below, or negative 10 ticks for a long trade. So, okay, so there we go. So, so indicator A, or input A, is going to be our SMA with that 10 tick offset, and indicator B, indicator B is going to be our entry price, right? Because we're wanting to compare we're comparing our stop loss to the entry price to know when we get one tick in profit from the entry price. So we're going to set B, so right, input B, we're setting that to price, and it's going to be our entry price, right? There's our entry price, and entry price plus a tick, right? Because remember, we want to keep trailing until we get 1 tick of profit. So we'll use a 1 tick offset from the entry price. So we take the entry price plus 1 tick. So this plus 1 tick means 1 tick of profit there. And of course, for a short trade, it's going to be minus 1 tick, right? So as I drew on the chart, right, you can see the entry price line, the dash dot dot, and you can see the red line that represents the stop loss is one tick below the entry price line. So for a short trade, it's going to be minus 1 tick there. All right, so we want to trail until we get 1 tick of profit. So now we just need to go into long and short mode, and we're just going to set this to, let's see, A is above and B is below. So we're going to get rid of the equals equation. So for a short mode, so for in a short trade, we need A to be below B, right? So what that is, A is below B. So what is A? A is our SMA minus the 10 ticks, right? SMA minus the 10 ticks, right? And this SMA minus the 10 ticks, that's exactly where our stop loss is getting moved to, right? So using this indicator with an offset represents where the stop loss is. And then B represents our entry price plus 1 tick of profit, right? So we want A below B. So that would be the proper way to create this repeat until rule there. Right, so this repeat until, this is this is applied to the profit of the stop loss, not the profit of the trade there. So. All right, so there we go. There's our revision to this question from last week.